Welcome to Faith Positive Radio with Dr. Joey Fawcett, the Christian business coaching conversation that increases your faith with greater joy at work so you love God and others more. Dr. Joey interviews Christian business professionals just like you to discover their secrets for working faith positive in a negative world. Welcome to Faith Positive Radio with Dr. Joey Fawcett.
Hi, Faith Positive Nation. Dr. Joey here again with an amazing episode of Faith Positive Radio. So delighted to be here with you today. Thanks so much for listening. Our goal, of course, is to inspire you, encourage you in putting your faith into work, at work. So practicing your faith at work. How do you do that? How do you make it happen? One of the biggest challenges that I've discovered in coaching Jesus followers all over the world is that there is this sometimes unspoken expectation that the world is somehow going to support you in the exercise of your faith at work. I'm not sure where that notion came from. I guess because we all want that rising tide underneath us, right? That rising spiritual tide to make things a little bit easier for us so that we can step up into it. So that somebody will walk up to you at work and say, hey, I heard something about this Jesus guy the other day. Would you tell me more about him? I'm not sure that that's the way it always happens. Maybe it does happen that way occasionally, but somehow expecting the world's positivity to overwhelm you and take you along with it like a current, when in fact, Jesus told us the opposite was true. He very clearly said, and I love the Message translation here, that in this world, you're going to have a lot of trouble. But look, take heart, Jesus said, for I have overcome the world. Now, intellectually, cognitively, we all agree with that. As Jesus followers, we say, yes, that's true. However, what does that look like putting it into practice every day? You're going to love today's guest. Literally, you're going to love today's guest because she has written a memoir. It's titled Seen and Unheard. We've got the JPEG of the image on her page on our website at getpositive.today. You can just click through, go to Amazon and buy your copy now. It's available at Barnes & Noble as well. She has overcome adversity, and she's got some principles which you can learn to overcome adversity in your own life. So just in case you found life challenging at work recently as a Jesus follower, this episode is for you. So Faith Positive Nation, help me welcome to Faith Positive Radio today. Remember, I told you you're going to love her, Patricia Love. Literally, we love you, Patricia Love. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. It's such a delight to be here. I'm very, very happy to be here coming from Seattle, Washington.
And not just Seattle, Washington, but where in Seattle, Washington?
Well, I just happen to live in what they call Shilshow Bay on the water on my boat.
Yeah, literally on the water.
If I do a little rocking back and forth, yeah. You'll understand. I might be grooving to the music, or I might be just rocking.
And she's on Puget Sound, so she starts to get lower and lower on the screen. Yeah. If you're watching this on YouTube,
start seeing me going down. I'll wave.
I'll throw you a lifeline. How about that?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Throw me a life preserver.
Yeah. So, Patricia, let's talk about first of all, where this notion comes from that somehow the world is not negative, that the world's positive, and that it's going to lift us up and make things really, really easy on us in terms of living out of our faith. Where do we get that notion?
I believe that we get it from, because we don't start off that way.
No, we don't.
Okay. We don't start off that way. Actually, we start off as precocious, in most cases, precocious, outgoing little kids that just want to see the world, right?
Yeah.
And do anything and say anything. And what happens is a lot of times your peers, your parents, your media, school comes into play, and a lot of negativity gets pushed into and kind of puts you down. So you kind of want to get quiet and not be seen, basically, you want to be heard, but you don't know how to be heard. So there's a lot of that, and a lot of it's subliminal. A little bit it's just people just saying, oh, you can't do that, or no, little Bobby, you can't do that. And pretty soon that kind of sticks with you, and you're like, yeah, you're right, I can't do it. I can't do this, I can't do that. So then that negativity sets in, and it's it overwhelms a lot of times the positive. But the good thing is the positive is there.
Yes.
You just have to ignite it. And you have
Mm.
to be willing and choosing to ignite it. And as a kid, we don't really have that choice as much, but as an adult, we have those choices so we can make better decisions as we grow older.
Yeah, because we move beyond the literal concrete stages of thinking, right? And most of us
Exactly.
do.
And whatever's been bombarded into us throughout the growth between 0 and 15 type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's but it is a lot that comes in, and we really need to be inspired and encouraged when we're young, and
Yes.
also loved, and
Mm.
knowing that you're loved
Mm.
by Jesus or your parents
Mhm.
or just anything, knowing that you need to
Mhm.
feel that love, because that
Mm.
love actually pushes you forward and moves you forward. But if you don't
Mhm.
have that, then that's where a lot of behavior problems and different things come in later on in life, which where what happened to me.
Wow, and that's what happened to you. Tell us what happened to you, because I'm so intrigued by the title of your book, Seen and Unheard. So many
Yeah,
of us
correct.
today feel invisible, or we feel like our voice is not heard. Pretty soon we start to buy the lie that we don't have anything to say, or we're not worthy of being seen, as if our own resources are what's in play here. Reminds me of this story, and this may be about somebody really close to you right now, Patricia, of the kid who was so glad to be in the choir that he sang at the top of his lungs, and he was on the front row. And then they asked him to step into the middle of the choir, and he sang really loud from there. And then they put him on the back row, and he sang really loud from there. And then finally they said to him, Joey, oh, whoops, I wasn't supposed to call his name. Joey, don't sing so loud. So how many of us die with songs left inside of us that, regardless of whether they're on key or not, that passion, that enthusiasm should come out?
Exactly. And actually you never forget those songs either. Those
Yeah.
songs
Oh, I know the
stick with
song.
you. They kind of maybe you forgot yours, but they
No,
get
I know that song. I still remember the one
See?
they told me to get on the back row and be quiet.
Well, it started off for me for like 3 years of age, and where I
Yeah.
was, there was a lady that actually we were walking down the street, and this lady comes up to me and my mom and my sister, and she says, "Oh my gosh, you're such a beautiful child. You got you're this, and such." And so instead of just saying thank you, apparently I embarrassed my mother to death
Mm.
because she was a black lady, and I went. I says, well, yes, why? Yes, I am pretty. And did you notice my eyelashes? And by the way, why are you so black? And my
Oh my
mother was just beyond herself.
Uh-huh.
And it was like a block letter. She turns around to me and sticks her finger in my face and says, young lady, you are to be seen and not heard. You never speak like that again. 3 years
Ooh.
old, never
Ooh.
forgot it.
Ooh.
And that was kind of like the very first to me being like, oh my gosh, I've upset my mom. I've upset, I hurt her. So I better not be so loud. Just like, kind of like you and somebody in the choir, let me say.
I'll own it. It was me.
Okay.
But it was a church choir.
Yeah. And so it's funny how people don't realize that there's these small things that you get triggered with that you hold on to in your body. And as life goes on, and say you get bullied, and I was bullied a bit because I came in a week late as far as in my 5th grade year. And, I was that girl that stood out and the such. And so I was bullied by a lot of the girls and made fun of, and all that stuff sticks to you.
It does.
And,
it's Velcro.
and if you don't talk about it, which I didn't, because I came from a household of, my mother was an alcoholic and my dad was a salesperson, but very unemotional. So he didn't know how to say, I love you. He didn't know how to care. And there was also a lot of mixed messages because he was basically an atheist and my mother was a Christian. And so it was a lot of mixed messaging. And so I learned to just be on my own because I was the youngest of 3. And I was like 8 years between my sibling and I. So I was pretty much an only child.
Yeah.
And so I learned to just play by myself, be by myself, because I didn't know any better. I didn't know what love was because I really wasn't getting it. I mean, I had a roof over my head. I had food to eat. but I was always trying to gather and get my father's love, because that's what a child does, and especially a daughter, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it led to honestly, it led to behaviors in my teens and in my 20s that were behaviors that weren't necessarily the best. I would probably have to say sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and that led me down some bad paths. And without changing those behaviors and not knowing and understanding, having the tools to change, you just think you're just unlucky, or you're playing the victim, or the such, right? But that's not true. But I didn't realize that, honestly, till almost 15 years ago.
Wow.
Okay, so add 15 years to 55. So almost, I'm 69 right now. So it was in my 50s that I actually, between two bad marriages and trying to figure out what do I keep doing wrong? Because like anything else, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you keep getting the same result. And that's
10 out of 10
exactly
times.
what I was doing. And it took me bottoming out to one night, and this you're gonna understand. There was this. I bottomed out. I've had a couple drinks. I wanted to give up. I didn't know if I was gonna have a roof over my head. I didn't know where the next food was gonna come from. I didn't know. And suddenly, at that time, there was this energy, and I'm gonna call it godly. I'm gonna call it energetically, whatever it may be, that literally came through me from my toes all the way up through my head, that literally said to me, do not give up. We need you. We love you. You have a gift to give the world.
Wow.
And at that moment, and a lot of people will say, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, no, this happened. Whether you want to believe it or
was
you don't
real,
want to believe
man.
it.
Yeah, it was real.
It came through me. And I ended up writing down these 5 particular words, which I had no idea at the time why I was even writing them down. But it was said, you need to write these words down. And they were acknowledgement, forgiveness, mindset, accountability, and perseverance. And it took me some time to really figure out where those words were coming from, what I was supposed to do with them. But what I did know, that somebody was asking me to take my power back, and that I had a choice, and that I could do it if I chose to do it. And that day right in there, I started changing my life. Now, did it happen overnight? No.
Is it still happening? Yes.
Yeah, of course, it's a journey.
Yeah.
But I've changed my whole life around, and became and changed my negative behaviors to positive behaviors, and things began to open, and things began to flow. Opportunities started to happen, and I'm very grateful for this moment with you, this moment that I was able to write this book for other people, letting people know that no matter what your circumstances, where you are, the age you are, you can make a change in your life, and there's God right with you, and it's and whatever you may believe in, and that they're just standing right next to you, walking with you, but you just have to take those little steps and you move forward. So today I'm an empowerment coach for women. I'm a #1 best-selling author. I'm an NLP and EFT, and I am helping women all around the world, which makes me happy. And it gives me inner peace, because I feel peaceful, because I'm abundant in so many ways now.
So what about if we take a few minutes, Patricia, and unpack those 5 words? How about that?
Sure.
So what was the first one? Acknowledgement?
First one was acknowledgement.
Okay.
And it's probably one of the most difficult words for most people to deal with, that I find, as he rolls his eyes.
Yeah. Isn't it?
Acknowledging your own truth, acknowledging your negative behaviors, acknowledging it. Maybe you might be judgmental, acknowledging maybe that you're not good with money, acknowledging the fact that you're bad in your relationships, that maybe you played a part in it.
Maybe you played a part in it.
Exactly.
It wasn't her fault. It wasn't his fault. It was, I had some ownership in that.
Yeah, you got to have some. So owning your truth. And I find that is so difficult for so many people, and they have to dig pretty deep to acknowledge it. And but when they start acknowledging it, things start to lift because it's almost like a weight of bricks off their shoulders. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm acknowledging this.
Free
And
at
then it
last.
gets a little deeper. They kind of find out, as I always ask people, where does these things come from? And they start thinking about these things and they're like, well, now I know why I did that. And, so it's understanding, that. So acknowledgement is one of the first words, which is critical to the start of any kind of change.
Patricia,
What do they say? If you can't change, if you don't change it, you can't fix it.
That's it.
Or don't acknowledge it, you can't fix it.
That's right. That's exactly right. Patricia Love is my guest today. She's a best-selling author of Seen and Unheard. Patricia, you've just reminded me in your description of that first word that God gave you to write down and to chart your journey by, that first word of acknowledgement. I'm remembering Jesus' scenario, his conversation with the Samaritan woman at the well, and how he spoke truth into her life, and she began to acknowledge, the failed relationships and things like that. She was out at the well at high noon when nobody wanted to be out there because it was scorching hot. She was by herself. But yet out of those acknowledgments came some truth, which set her free. And she then began to tell others about this Jesus that she had met. So that's a great
it is true.
place
The truth will set you free. The truth will set you free. And that's why that word is so critical.
Yeah. So I start with acknowledgement. What's the second word God gave you?
Second word is, by gosh, it's even some people might call it even tougher. It's forgiveness. It's forgiveness. It's forgiving others who have done it to you. You might say that you think that have wronged you, and forgiveness of yourself. And the first thing I always tell people, first off, you got to forgive yourself, because you are not perfect. You're human. You make mistakes. And that's how we learn. In fact, I try to tell people all the time, lessons learned is wisdom earned.
Yes.
And it's we make mistakes, but that's how we grow. So forgiving yourself is critical, and forgiving others that you felt that, maybe was holding you back. Like, for instance, I had to forgive my mother. I had to forgive my father. Because they didn't understand. They only did what they knew what to do.
They were doing the best they could.
They doing the best they could. And from where they come from, when I find out their stories. And then also forgiving people that maybe have wronged you, or maybe that have abused you, or some kind of trauma that you've been into. Like, I've been on some traumas, and I had to forgive those people because, again, they have their own story. I don't know where they came from. Nothing was necessarily directed at me. And also, when you don't forgive, you hold on to the very, very negative energy.
Yeah, you really do.
You need to release it. And once you release that, you can be in the present and move forward. So,
yeah, it's like a cancer that just eats your soul out. So, Patricia, somebody listening to this right now is saying to themselves, yeah, but he doesn't deserve forgiveness, or she'll never come to me and ask for forgiveness, so I'm not going to forgive her. What do you say to those people?
I say, you know what? I said, forgive, not forget.
Yeah, really.
But you deserve, because right now they're holding all of the power. And if without you releasing it, they have you by the hand, and they're just taking you along with them, and it's not in a good way, or pulling you back, and it's not in a good way. Yep. So you're releasing them, and they're going to get the karma, or whatever you might want to call it. They're going to have things happen
of their actions, right?
Exactly. So they don't usually care. In fact, they don't even probably know who you are.
Don't even remember it.
They don't remember your name. They don't remember anything. And so you're only hurting yourself. So once you decide that I'm hurting myself, that's not good. Yeah. Then don't forget, but forgive yourself for, not forgiving, and then you present, and then move forward. So you can take that negative energy and put it forward into something beautiful, and have faith in the world that there are good things. We just happen to run into a couple bad ones.
Yeah. So I forgive him or her, not because they deserve it, but because I need to.
Because you deserve it, and you need to move on and take your power back.
All right. So word 1 that God gave you was acknowledgement. Word 2 was forgive. What's the third word God gave you?
Mindset. Mindset is important, and really having either understanding you're having a growth mindset or not. Because if you want to have a growth mindset because you want to move forward and think positive on a regular basis. By thinking in a different way, you kind of, what we talked about at the very beginning, you're kind of thinking about the negative all of the time, or nothing is ever changes, or you're playing the victim. You are like playing the victim, or you just can't move forward. When in reality, a growth mindset is just really being open to the world, being open to different things, being open to challenges, being open and growing, rather than having that, they call it a fixed mindset.
Right.
And so it's important to understand that both, and understand where you might fit into either one. Do you have a fixed mindset? Do you have a growth mindset, or do you have a mixture of both? But being really aware of which one you have, and try to moving it forward into more of a growth mindset, because when you're growing, you're living.
Oh, yeah. And that's a choice as well. As Paul tells us in Philippians, the 4th chapter, and this is the Message translation, he tells us to fill our minds with and meditate, and then gives us this list of things that are true and noble and da-da-da-da-da. And then he says, the best, not the worst. Things to praise, not things to curse. The beautiful, not the ugly. So our mind is a muscle, and we choose our mindset, right? And I can choose to focus on the beautiful and the things to praise, on the wonderful things that are going on around me, or I can choose to think of the other stuff, right?
You can always choose. That's a wonderful thing about being a human. We have choices, whether they're bad or good. We have choices. Right. And the thing is choosing to move forward and having that growth. You're going to live healthier, longer. When you have a fit mind, and constantly growing, you're going to be healthier, not only in your mind, but in your body, because when you've got more control over that muscle up there and creating more different neural pathways and such, it's amazing how much more focus and clarity you have when you really watch out after your mind, because we all talk about our body, but we tend to forget about the mind that really controls the body.
It drives it. You're exactly right. It's the engine. The positive lifestyle starts and stops in your head. It truly does.
Exactly. So,
God gave you acknowledgement. He gave you forgiveness. Third word was mindset or mindfulness.
And accountability.
Fourth word's accountability. Oh, there's a word we all love to talk about, Patricia Lowe. Please hold me accountable, Father.
Exactly. I really like to work on being accountable to oneself. And the reason being is that, yes, you can get a partner, you can find somebody to hold you accountable, you can get a group, and that's all fine and good. But a lot of times, like especially during this past year and a half, unless you were on Zoom, maybe they couldn't hold you accountable as easily, right? You have to understand that you don't want to rely on other people to hold you accountable. You need to learn to be accountable to your own actions and hold yourself to the floor and hold yourself, because you're the one that has to go to sleep with yourself at night.
Yeah. Well, and
you're the one that has to say, did I do what I was supposed to do? Hold yourself accountable and give yourself, and to do that, give yourself small little goals, not big ones, and to be accountable. And then what I always tell people when they're being accountable, celebrate themselves. Celebrate when they actually create and do something good, whether it's so small. Maybe if you're trying to lose weight, maybe it was just that not eating that one cookie. Get up and dance and go, woohoo! I did not eat that. I was accountable to that. It's really important. Yeah.
Even though the ice cream was 2 for $5, I didn't buy it and bring it home.
Well, you know what? That's a celebration. You can only buy one.
It's a celebration. That's exactly right.
Because you know what that does, though? It builds confidence in you.
Oh, it does. And it releases all kinds of wonderful things in our brain, the brain hormones and chemicals like serotonin and dopamine and oxytocin and all those things which God put in our brains to lift us up, right? Besides, Jesus loved to party. I mean, where was his first miracle? It was at a wedding reception.
And that was why wine was involved in the thing.
And it was the best wine they served. Now, you have to remember back then, a reception following a wedding lasted for an entire week. These people have been drinking wine for a week, right?
That's right.
And then the best wine drops when he changes the water into wine. So
that's right. So anyway. And he even celebrates. So Jesus celebrates
all the time.
And so take a path of that and celebrate yourself and all the good things that you do. Stop ignore the negative ones. Ignore that one like, oh, I had 2 cookies. If you only had one, celebrate. Because you probably would have had 2 before. So you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah. Or if you only ate a dozen, or normally
you know what? It's all relative.
It is relative. Not that I know anybody who eats cookies
I
like
won't,
that.
and I certainly won't be asking you that question. Then.
I'm not going there. So God gives you in your defining moment, in your depths of despair, God gives you this blessing, and that blessing is accompanied by 5 words: acknowledgement, right?
Right.
The second word is forgiveness. The third is mindset. The fourth is accountability. What's that 5th and final word that he gave you?
Most
Patricia?
important, perseverance.
Perseverance
And persistence. And knowing, and that's one of the reasons I always tell people and I coach people that it take one step at a time.
Please.
Because if you're taking one step forward, you're still ahead of where you were. And you just keep on going, because there's so many people that overwhelm themselves with trying to do too much.
Oh, yeah.
And then they can't make that goal. And so now they feel like they've actually failed on something, when in reality they didn't, because they probably did 6 steps, but they forgot to realize if they did 6 steps, they wanted to get to 10. So, take one step at a time and just keep on going and never give up, because you are worth it. You are a gift. And then I do have a 6th word that I always like to call it my bonus word that actually brings all of it together.
Yep.
And that is gratitude. When I am grateful in the moment for everything I have right this moment, I am so much better off than anybody else. Even in my darkest of depths and what I believed was my bottom, my bottom,
right.
I was still better off than so many others. I still had a roof over my head. I still had some food to eat. I still had my health. So when you're grateful in the present and truly grateful, and I want to say that with a word of truly, because I think sometimes the word gets overused and it's just saying, yeah, I'm grateful for that. Oh, I'm grateful for that. No. But are you feeling it? Are you really feeling the gratitude and feeling that that you are really grateful? And when you feel it, that's when life really opens up, when you also put all these other words together and you utilize it. I live by these words every single day to this day. I hold myself accountable on every day or every night. I go through this, what do I have to acknowledge today? Do I have to forgive somebody today? How was my mindset? How was I accountable for the things? Did I finish what I wanted to do? Did I keep going? Did I take 3 steps, 2 steps? And are you grateful? And what are you grateful for? So it all works. And it's like what you were talking about earlier is creating a habit.
Yes.
And when you create that habit, it makes you feel good, and it starts your evening off or your morning off in a beautiful place.
Oh, yeah. You can wake up in the morning doing these things. You can go to sleep at night doing these things. I write in my gratitude diary every single night about 3 positive experiences God brought me that day. So
exactly,
it's an amazing set of habits. PatriciaLove.com is the website. You can go there, or you can go to getpositive.today and search for her name, which is remarkably easy to remember, Patricia Love. And there you'll find PatriciaLove.com. You'll also find a link over to Amazon to pick up a copy of her book, Seen and Unheard. She's a best-selling author. She's an amazing daughter of the Father. Patricia, Faith Positive Nation always wants to know about a favorite Bible verse or Bible passage. Now, I hope I didn't step on one of yours, because I was mentioning a bunch of Bible passages there throughout, but I bet you got a favorite there, don't you?
I definitely have a favorite, and I use it through my teachings and my coaching, and it really is about forgiveness. And it's when Jesus was on the cross saying, "Forgive them, because they know not what they do." And that's really, I mean, people look back through that as forgiveness, because when you can forgive, you release so much, as we talked about in my second word, that, and then understanding it, they have their own stories. They have their own, my father, my mother had their own stories. They did what they could do. So me to blame them doesn't do me any good, but to forgive them because they know not what they do. But now it's my choice to move forward and be present and move forward and live in godly and live in faith.
Right, as opposed to living trapped by the past
Instead
and
of
in
living
that
trapped,
mental
like so many
prison.
do. So many,
Yeah,
they trap
exactly.
themselves in the past, and you don't have to.
No, you
And
don't.
it's a choice.
Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. We're all just trying to figure it out, and I'm not excusing anybody's behavior, and neither is Patricia Love.
No.
It's abominable behavior that many of us are the victims of. However, where to from here? And fortunately, we have been saved by an amazing Messiah, Jesus Christ, who sets us free to live the lives that we were intended to live. PatriciaLove.com is the website. The book is Seen and Unheard. Patricia, thank you so much for this incredible conversation. I've loved every second of it, literally. And just pray God's blessings on you and the amazing work that you're doing. Thank you so much for the gift of your time and wisdom today.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for listening to Faith Positive Radio, the Christian business coaching conversation that increases your faith with greater joy at work so you love God and others more. Suggest guests and ask questions when you email Dr. Joey at info@getpositive.today. And be sure to get your free gift of the 5 positive business conversations to have today coaching program at getpositive.today. Until next time, may God bless you with everything your heart can hope for and more than your mind can imagine.